Hey, Composer Gloves here, and this is another video in the Music Theory Essentials, and today we are going to talk about intervals. So we finally reached a point where we're beginning to get more into the theory side, but this is again another one where you're just going to have to memorize more stuff. I know it just seems like it never ends, but persevere with me, okay? So there are two kinds of intervals. First, let's see, what's an interval? Well, the interval is the space between two notes. So if we were to hit a C, and then we've got an E flat, well, the space between those two notes is what we call the interval. Now, the most basic interval in Western music is the half step. So we have a C, and if we were to move one key up, we'd say we just moved a half step up. If we were to move one key down, we just moved a half step down. There are 12 steps in a scale. So if you ever see all this, or in an octave. So if you ever see this 12 everywhere and you're wondering what that's about, it's because there's 12. We start on our C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Or if we were to count the C first, and then when you reach the other C, this would be the 12. And then, anyways, there's 12 steps, okay? So, and if you count the octave, which you don't, that would be 13. So there are two ways to measure this distance. And we're going to use some staff paper to do this. So let's say we have a C and we have a G. These intervals are spaced out. Like there's a space between them. This is called melodic. This is a melodic interval. There's space between them. You play it like a melody. You'd play C and then you'd play G. You'd not play them at the same time. But if you were to have them like so, stacked on top of each other and connected with one stem, now this note is what's called a harmonic interval. So this is harmonic and this is melodic. Those are the two kinds. So why would we need to differentiate that? It seems pretty obvious, sort of is. You have a C, and if you're playing written music, this first example would be C, G, C, G. I'm not sure if I'm singing the right keys or not. If you guys have perfect pitch, you probably going, well, that's not even close. But if we were to play them at the same time, you'd go like this. Bang. You'd hit them both at the same time. That's why they're on top of each other in written music, as we have right here. So those are the two major kinds of intervals. Let's talk about real quick all the different intervals. Now this is where the memorizing comes in. It gets ridiculous. You're just gonna have to know this stuff. So the first one is called the C. The first from a C to, well, that's actually before I do that. Alright, so now let's talk about quality versus quantity. You might be saying, what the heck's with this quality and quantity? What the junk? Okay, so we have quality. We have quantity. So we're familiar with quantity. That's like how much of something. So if we go from C to G, that's pretty big space. That's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 half steps. Wow, that's a lot. Or it's important. If you were to count the C first, then you don't count the last note. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or if you were to count the C, not count the C, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just important to make that note. It can make chord counting confusing. Now, you're going to learn as we go that you don't want to count like this, but we need to learn our intervals before we can start making scales. So that's the quantity. So we have 7. We have 7, right? What's this quality thing? Well, let's name the basic intervals that we have to work with here, and then the quality will become more clear, and in more lessons as we explore this concept, it'll become even more clear. So we have a C. The next note up from a C is a C sharp. I'm just going to write out the first few. The difference between these is what is called a minor, and I always make a little squiggly thing so that you know it's a lowercase m. a minor second. So that's how you express a half step. Now, this minor is the quality. This tells you the quality. This 2 represents the space between the notes itself. Now, this will become very important later on. Some people count half steps, and as a result, they get chord qualities wrong. And we'll explain that as we get into the major scale and the ideas behind a major scale. But anyways, that's the minor second. Now I'm going to shoot through the rest, and honestly just go look it up somewhere and memorize it. There's tons of websites that explain this stuff. So you have a minor second, and if you were to go from that C to a D natural, this is a major second. So this is now the quality is major, so it would be a capital M. From a C to an E flat is a minor third. Okay, and from a C to an E natural is a major third. Now you might be saying, what about like if we started on some other note like A? Well, it's the same thing. If you go up one half step, so an A to an A flat is a minor second. If you go up another one, it'd be a major second, then a minor third, then a major third. Then after this, it's called the perfect fourth. Okay, it's perfect, meaning it cannot be, I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my voice. It cannot be majored or minored. Okay, so it's perfect. It literally cannot change. You might be saying, where did that come from? From what I understand, some church dudes were in charge of music theory, and they said these were appropriate places to pause in music or to stop in music or end music. So they called them perfect. But now we just know them as perfect, and they do hold some qualities that are kind of interesting. But just know this is a perfect fourth. You cannot major or minor a perfect interval. So you have perfect fourth. Then you have this thing, has a weird name. It's called the tritone, and it becomes very important much later in theory. But for now, you just memorize the interval because it will come up. The tritone. Then you could say it's the augmented fourth. But again, we haven't talked about that type of thing yet. So just right now it's the tritone. Then you have the perfect fifth, and the perfect fourth, the perfect fifth. Anything that's perfect are very important intervals that you're going to use a lot later. So you have the perfect fifth. Then you have the minor sixth, the major sixth, the minor seventh, the major seventh, and then you have the octave. So those are your intervals. Go look them up. Go memorize them. If you have any questions about this, drop them in the comments. If you enjoy these videos, subscribe. If you didn't think it was all that clear, ask some questions. Honestly, a lot of this, understanding it is a result of your own research, just learning. I'm doing the best I can, and I'm looking for ways to improve always. So, if you enjoy this, check out my music, and have a blessed day.
I reflect on the ride, I reflect on my mind. I don't regret anything that caused my soul to sing. I don't regret growing wings and taking people sing. I reflect on my life, I reflect on the strife. I reflect on the ride, I reflect on my life, I reflect on the strife. I reflect on